Hey guys, I am back with more Halloween Horror Nights news and a little bit of Halloween Horror Nights history. So I was already planning to film a video today to talk about the history of the Terra Queen. And then on Monday we got a new speculation map from Horror Night Nightmares. So before we dive into the history, let's talk about this new map. So first of all, hi, I'm Liz. If this is the first video you're seeing of mine, I am a huge Halloween Horror Nights fan. We're gonna keep it simple today and just say that if you love Halloween Horror Nights, you're interested in rumors, news, and history, make sure to subscribe because I'm gonna be putting out videos all year leading up to the event. So with this new speculation map, there are 3 major changes on there and 2 little minor ones. The major changes are we have 3 new houses, and those are listed as Secret IP, Unknown Original, and Pumpkin Original. Now these 3 houses replace Sabrina, Gremlins, and Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish isn't completely off the map because now she's listed under the Universal Brides as Universal Brides Music by Billie Eilish. I like that better. I'm totally fine having a Universal Monsters Bride house with just the music of Billie Eilish in the background. Totally fine with that. We also lost Cary, Ohio as part of the description for Legendary Truth. So I don't know if that means it's going to be more of a broad history house, not just Cary, Ohio based. But don't worry, I'm still going to do my Cary, Ohio history video in the future because I think that's a fun topic and we need something to distract ourselves during all this madness. We're going to talk about Cary, Ohio in the future anyway. But as far as these new additions, obviously can't say too much about the Unknown Original or the Pumpkin Original. We'll have to wait to find out more information about those. I'm intrigued by the idea of a Pumpkin Original because I usually like the costumes and masks they do when pumpkins are involved. Curious to see what that actually means. Unknown Original, got nothing to go there. But I did want to touch on the Secret IP because I am wondering if that Secret IP is the same IP that I hinted at in my last video, saying that I'd heard another IP getting mentioned, but I didn't want to say what it was yet. I'm gonna go ahead and say what I've been hearing. Again, super early on, could totally just be a rumor. Just like on the last map we had Gremlins, this could still be totally false, but what I'm hearing in the background is that the Secret IP might actually be Silence of the Lambs. Very curious if that is real. I'm not quite sure how they would execute a Silence of the Lambs house, but it's definitely a classic property that hasn't been seen at Horror Nights, I don't think, unless Hannibal Lecter was in one of the mashup houses back in the day, which he could have been. If you know, comment down below and let me know. But that's what I'm hearing. So time will tell. We'll see if that's real. But what do you guys think? Do you like Silence of the Lambs as a possibility? We will see. So that's it for the new map so far. Again, I'm sure this will change again multiple times before the event is here. If the event is here. It's fun to talk about in the meantime. Without further ado, now let's jump into the video that I actually had planned for today, and that is the history of the Terra Queen from Halloween Horror Nights 2005 or HHN15. So both of these rumor maps have included a house that they're calling Terra Cruentus, which ties back to the Terra Queen and Halloween Horror Nights 15 back in 2005. Part of the Terra Queen's lore is that she would return in 15 years, and 15 plus 15 is 30. So she's supposed to come back this year, be resurrected for Horror Nights 30. So I did attend Halloween Horror Nights 15. I was still too chicken to do houses. It was the last year that I didn't do houses. Coincidentally, it was also the last year that I could not drink at Halloween Horror Nights. Maybe I just needed that liquid courage to get into houses the first time, but I did attend for one night. That said, I was still very much immersed in the lore of 2005 thanks to the Halloween Horror Nights website. And so before I go into the history, I do want to share with you guys that you can still explore the 2005 website thanks to Horror Night Nightmares. They have it linked on their website with all the lore still able to explore. Ooh, that rhymed. So before I go into my video, I want to give you a little tutorial on how to explore the website, and I highly recommend this for any Halloween Horror Nights fan. We've got a lot of time on our hands right now anyway. I really think these old websites were such a huge part of Halloween Horror Nights of years past, and I'm sad they don't do them this way anymore. Such a fun part of the fan experience. So if you never got to explore the 2005 website, I will link it down below, but here's a little clip of how to navigate it. I'm only gonna touch the surface of the lore that was given to us that year. because it's just too much information to try to put into one short-ish video. Highly recommend exploring this website. In case you're a younger viewer who didn't really go through websites that were very flash-based, I just want to show you how you can navigate. So by clicking the Horror Nights logo, I got a little storyteller teaser that came up. But you can also go through the houses and you can actually read a lot of what I'm going to discuss coming up here. You can see the event map. In order to get all the little hidden tidbits, you click this book over here. That's the Terra Queen symbol. And then there's stuff you can interact with here. So when you hover over it, it will highlight. You can click it. It'll load again. And then there's various things that you can click on and interact with. It's probably talking right now. Yeah. So if you're looking for something to pass an afternoon and you just want to go through some Horror Nights history, definitely browse this website, because this is one of the most elaborate websites they did, and there's just so much to go through. There's little clips from inside the houses, like you can get a little preview of what the houses look like back then. There's a reason why us old school people say we loved the old websites. And this is why. There was just so much interaction and so much to learn on them, and the level of detail was incredible. So go check it out, do some exploring, and learn some Horror Nights history. So with that, let's get into the rest of the video. Now let's dive into some actual history. Who is the Terra Queen? So the Terra Queen was the planned icon for Halloween Horror Nights 2005, Tales of Terror. And as you can see, if you explored that website, they slowly released her story through the website over the months leading up to the event. And so we got to know all about the Terra Queen and Terra Cruentus through the website leading up to attending the event. Horror Nights in 2005 was held at Islands of Adventure, and it was the first time that the entire event revolved around a single story. So every single scare zone and every single house was all tied into the Terra Queen, Terra Cruentus, and that realm. However, I say that the Terra Queen was the intended icon for the event because, as I understand it, marketing stepped in and said, hey, we need someone we can sell the event with. We need someone for the billboards and the t-shirt. And so thus the storyteller was created. The storyteller was the face of 2005. However, she wasn't really present at the event beyond that. The Terra Queen was the icon and the entire story of the event. I think they just loosely tied in that the storyteller was telling the story of the Terra Queen, but it was really just a marketing ploy. Now granted, storyteller has had a much longer life and we've seen her over and over since then, but the first year of her was really just an overlay over the original intended story of the Terra Queen. So as for the lore of the Terra Queen reigned over Terra Cruentus, and when you entered the park, there was a stage show called the Terra Throne, and multiple times a night, the Terra Queen would come up with her posse and hold a blood ritual ceremony. So if you're familiar with Islands of Adventure, it's basically held right pushed up against where the wait time board is, right when you walk into the park. That's where her stage was, and she had a sidekick named Eelmouth who interpreted for her because Terra Queen didn't actually speak. She just kind of made a lot of noises and screams and hisses and very primal type of sounds. So Eelmouth was her actual mouthpiece, interpreting everything that she wanted to say. She also rode a super sweet motorcycle, which I found some pictures. All the pictures that are going to be featured today in my video came from the Horror Nights fandom wiki. I will link them down below, and they give credit to the original photographers on their website as well, so make sure to check those out. I want to make sure that the original photographers get credit. So in that original opening scare zone where you got to meet the Terra Queen, she was also protected by the Bone Chopper Riders, which were her black guard, and they also had these really super sweet motorcycles that they drove around, and it was a different time in Halloween Horror Nights history than it is now, for sure. So each night she would have a stage show multiple times of the night, and she would sacrifice guests, aka they had actors planted in the crowd. The scare actors would come grab the guest, drag him on stage, and they would be part of the blood ritual sacrifice. And this is all part of the blood cycle lore of Terra Cruentus that we'll get into in a moment. On the final night of the event, the Terra Queen herself was sacrificed to complete the blood cycle, and the lore says that she would return in 15 years. So that is why all of us Halloween Horror Nights diehard fans are expecting to see the Terra Queen at the event somehow. So what is Terra Cruentus? Terra Cruentus is the realm that the Terra Queen reigns over, and in Terra Cruentus, human blood is needed for a cycle of sacrifice and creation. So the blood from these rituals is used to create iron, which is used many ways throughout the lore, including creating the Terra Throne blade that the Terra Queen uses in the sacrifice ritual, which this blade is all over the website. It was all over that year. This is the Terra Throne blade, very big part of the lore. There were multiple regions within Terra Quinta. Each had their own name, each had their own creatures that reside there. And yes, this is all part of the lore. It was on the map and everything. So we had Ironbone Gorge, North Hollow, South Hollow, the Gorewood Forest, and Dragon Forge. We'll go into each of those more in just a moment, but there was also the Gorewood tree. The Gorewood tree was a black oak sapling that took root in the blood-soaked soil of an ancient battlefield. The tree produced clusters of bloodberries used to make bloodberry wine. It was also used to create the Terra Throne, where the nightly sacrifices are made in devotion to the Terra Queen. So there's a whole back lore on just the Gorewood tree. I'm telling you, back in the day, A&D went super deep with their backstories, and that's why so many of us are diehard fans all these years later. The lore of Terra Quinta does not stop there. Like I said before, every single house and every single scare zone was all tied to this story. So now let's go into the houses and scare zones and talk about these different regions. So first of all, let's talk about the scare zones of the year. We had the Terra Guard Run, which was the first scare zone that you saw when you walked in. It's where the Terra Throne was located. It's where the blood ritual happened. But also, even when there wasn't a stage show happening, they had a sampling of all the different creatures and characters you would see throughout the event milling around in that front area. So you kind of see all the different residents of Terra Cruentas right when you walked in. The decorations look very Game of Thrones to me now. Then you had Blood Thunder Alley, which was part of Ironbone Gorge. And this is in the Superhero Island area, the Marvel area. This is where the Bone Choppers reside. So it's very motorcycle gang. There were go-go dancers, there were chainsaws. It was very much like a biker gang zone. And that's why the go-go dancers and Rob Zombie this past year reminded me of old Horror Nights, because the go-go dancers were a big deal back in the day. Then in Toon Lagoon, you had the North Hollow. There wasn't actually a scare zone here because I think the cartoon right, but that is where Bill and Ted's was located, in that theater that's off to the left in between Marvel area and Toon Lagoon. That's where Bill and Ted's was. So next up was the Cemetery Mines, and this was in the Jurassic Park area, and it was part of the Gorewood Forest. So the description off the website said, creatures called knuckle grunts dart in and out of cemetery mine tunnels, terrorizing and attacking anyone and anything that comes their way. I remember this scare zone, and the pictures definitely brought back some strong memories for me. I remember being actually really scared walking through this zone because Jurassic Park back then, not so much now, but back then it was super lush. There's tons of bushes and plants and trees all through there, and it made a perfect hiding spot for people to hide in those bushes. Costumes look pretty goofy in the daylight, but at night, when it was pitch black going through the Jurassic Park area, it was terrifying. And you have to remember that back then, the events weren't nearly as busy as they are now. I remember going through scare zones in the Jurassic Park area and it being pretty much me and my friends, and it being very quiet back there. And so without many crowds, and then you have that many scare actors in an area hiding in bushes jumping out at you, it was very scary. Next up you had the Fire Pits, which was part of Dragon Forge, and that was in the Lost Continent area. So remember that this is 2005, so it was long before Harry Potter was in the parks, so Hogsmeade didn't exist. And that area where Hogsmeade exists was just Dueling Dragons, the Flying Unicorn, and then where Three Broomsticks is was a giant tree restaurant. No Harry Potter, that doesn't exist yet. So in the Fire Pits, Warmongers smelt Gorewood iron from a nearby realm and hammer precious molten metal into shields, weapons, and the Terra Throne blade. So this is where the Terra Throne blade is created. Tempered in vats of fresh human blood, the blade making requires fresh donors to fill the vats on a nightly basis. So essentially, all of us walking through were potential donors for the blood vats. Horror Nights of yore, I miss you. And then the last zone we had was South Hollow, and that was in Seussland. They weren't allowed to do scare zones in Seussland because of the rights. It just had creepy music and dark lights, and it was a scare-free zone. So now let's talk about the houses from 2005 because they really get into the lore of the event more than the scare zones do. The scare zones were really just supplemental. So we'll go in the same order around the island. We'll start with the Marvel area with the Demon Cantina. So the Demon Cantina is the Bone Chopper's favorite hangout, and it's where they imbibe a ton of bloodberry wine, but it's a very dangerous place for humans to visit. So they're celebrating the season of the Queen, and they decide to bring in chainsaw wielding maniacs to provide entertainment and seductive creatures to supply amusement. So from what I understand, it was very much, again, biker bar theme, but very vampire theme. Bloodlust, they're after blood, a lot of blood in this event. I'm not super sad that I missed this one, we'll put it that way. And then you come to one that I am very sad I missed, and that is the original Body Collector's house. Yes, this is the first time we saw the Body Collectors at Halloween Horror Nights. And let's be real, if you're a Buffy fan, you know where these characters were based off of. They're based off the gentleman from one of my favorite Buffy episodes of all time. They look familiar, right? But for the 2005 lore, the Body Collectors lived in Gorewood Forest, and they processed the unfortunate victims of the Terra Throne rituals. So all those guests you see sacrificed up front, once they're dead, their bodies get taken to the Body Collectors. They also created the half of the Terra Throne blade, which was made out of unblemished human femur and wrapped and decorated with human hair and teeth. Yum. So I'm very sad I missed this one. Obviously, I loved the Body Collector's house that I finally got to do, because it should be noted that I have terrible timing, and I moved to Colorado right before the 2008 event. So I didn't get to go in 2008, which everyone have a moment of silence for me because that was supposedly one of the best years of Horror Nights ever. Probably the event that was most made for me out of all of the years, and I didn't get to go to it, and it was very sad. The Body Collectors returned in 2008, and then obviously they returned in 2015 for that big anniversary year. So next up we have the Schoolhouse, and this also made a return in 2008, I believe, as a scare zone, but slightly tweaked. So in the original Schoolhouse, the children of the realm congregate at the schoolhouse to celebrate the season of the Queen in their own twisted way. In theory, I think it was a good idea and interesting to have the children of the realm, but as you can see from the pictures, they did not really try that hard to actually create costumes that matched that description, and they were really just girls in these costumes that they've reused a ton over the years. So in theory, cool idea, execution did not really match the description. So the description for Blood Ruins was, still ruled by defrocked monks who worship the Queen, the ruins of the old Blood Abbey serves as a prison, hospital, and asylum to a population of fresh mankind donors in Dragon Forge. Warmongers use terrible tools of torture. Ooh, terrible tools of torture. It's fun to say, actually. I don't know what that says about me. To meet the demand of a never-ending supply of blood for the Terra Throne blade. All part of that cycle of ritual surrounding the Terra Queen. So then there was an area between the South Hollow and the Dragon Forge that they called the Maldaken Pass, I think is how you say it. And this was the Trials of Fear area. So there were 3 houses here. So those included the Terra Mines, long rumored to be the underground source of a vast power that fuels Terra Cruentus above. The abysmal deep can only be reached through the twisting tunnels of the Terra Mines. Unearthed in a terrible mining tragedy, savage subterranean creatures now live in a constant battle with the Dragon Forge miners and mankind. This is one house that I wish I had done back in 2005 because it was a very unique concept where 1 out of every 10 guests was given a helmet that had a lamp on it, and as you proceeded through the house, the lamp would actually interact with sensors throughout the house, so it would change colors, it would strobe, it would go off completely, and that one person was the only person with the light for the next 9 people, and then it'd be another helmet. So I imagine this was, at least in concept, a very interesting way to do a house. Almost impossible to do now because the crowds are just too big. But even back then I thought it sounded super creative, way too scary for me to do back then. Now I would love it. I would love to be any person in that group. The repeat factor would have been fun because you never know if you're gonna have the helmet or not. Really wish I'd done that house. That one was also held in Poseidon's Fury, which is a really interesting location, and I assume from pictures that they actually went through the water tunnel. What a cool location for a house. So next up we have Cold Blind Terror, which has the description of bone-chilling cold and blind terror numb the senses. In and out of total darkness, mankind find themselves shivering from both fear and icy cold blackness. I honestly don't know anything about this house, haven't heard anything about it, Was it actually a really super dark house? Is that why it was called Cold Blind Terror? I really don't know much about it. And then the final house for that year was Where Evil Hides. Beyond the Maldacan Pass lie the very places in mankind's worst nightmares where night terrors are real. So those are your scare zones and houses for 2005. So what does that mean for Halloween Horror Nights 30? So if the rumor map is correct, it sounds like we are getting a house that's dedicated to Terra Cruentus and the resurrection of the Terra Queen in the latest season of the Queen. So in theory, I would expect to see all those creatures from all those different realms appear in this house. So you can expect to see the Terra Queen, Eel Mouth, Knuckle Grunts, Bone Choppers, Warmongers, and possibly the Body Collectors. How cool would that be? In Terra Cruentus, blood sacrifices are always needed, so I have a feeling we're going to be the donors all over again, helping the ritual complete for the new Terra Throne blade. Easily see us re-navigating through those areas that were the whole park, just in a house. So going through Ironbone Gorge, going through Gorge Forest, going through Dragon Forge, seeing all of those locations come back to life with their residents. This whole section is all just based on my own speculation. We don't have any details as far as what's going in the house yet, obviously. But I could see the house starting with the Terra Queen being resurrected and ending with her once again being sacrificed for another 15 years. Thus starting and ending this season of the Queen. So what do you guys think? What do you think of the lore and history of the Terra Queen and Terra Cruentus? Are you excited about the possibility of seeing her back at Halloween Horror Nights 30? I think putting all of this lore into a house dedicated to her is the best way to do it. I don't think having an entire event around the Terra Queen works at Universal Studios like it did at Islands back then. So I think it's a smart way to do it, a smart way to pay tribute to all that lore and to see it back at Halloween Horror Nights again. So if you want even more detail than what I gave in this video, it is available to you. I will put the links down below. Definitely check out that old website. And also I'm going to link down below the Horror Nights wiki that has a ton more pictures from every house, scare zone, everything on it that have been collected from various fans over the years. I definitely did not have a camera with me during my trip in 2005, so I have nothing to share, unfortunately, from my personal experience. So for my next history video, I'm planning to talk about Cary, Ohio. Like I said, even if it's not a house, I still want to talk about it. So I'm planning to do that 2 weeks from now, unless we get an announcement. If we get an announcement, then I will hold off on another history lesson until we discuss that. I will definitely be back with something for you guys 2 weeks from now. So I will see you guys then. Hope you're all doing well out there. Hopefully everyone put out in the universe. Cross your fingers that spooky season happens because I need some horror nights in my life in 2020. So with that, I am signing off, but I will see you guys again soon. Bye.